Hey, good morning, everyone. Hope you've all had your cereal like I have. I have had Cocoa Pops because it is the cornerstone of every healthy breakfast. Um, what we're gonna be doing here on this channel is mostly my commentary about the commentary that is all around us. So I'll be looking at YouTube comments and doing that thing with my eyes. When I get find my microphone stand, I can actually do this. Oh my god! And if you can hear a whirring noise in the background, that's my potato laptop, which if I show you with this webcam, it doesn't have an actual keyboard. It's about 7 years old. We're looking at we're looking at a museum piece, my friends. Anyway, my name's Bailey, and I'm involved with that Poxy EU referendum, and I've been. Well, I woke up this morning and I made the error of reading this. There's a Facebook group called Red Labour. You know, all those people that the Telegraph warn you about. Those hard left socialists. Well, I'm one of them, but this group is filled with some too. And much like the Monty Python skit about the People's Judean Front, the Judean Front of people, the bit where no one gets along, but they're all technically on the same side. That's what happens on the left. But with the campaign to remain in Britain, having a lot of angry young people at the bottom, Vice published an article in which they said old people in their Volvos, old people with the really loud TVs, old people who bought a house for £60 somehow and don't understand why you and the boyfriend who you're not married, but we'll not get into that, now can't buy something for your own. How often do you touch your curtains? And then this whole thing turns into some sort of tirade about old people twitching their curtains, how they don't chat much, how they hate kids, how they watch Countdown, how they eat 2 bites of steak and kidney pie, then say they're done. You have to go home early from the restaurant because the old person needs an insane amount of special medical banisters, blah 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 blah. So it's a lot of bitterness towards old people in this rant, and I get it, but as someone that volunteers and assists the elderly, that's not something I would ever come out and say. But the Labour page picked this up, this article from Vice.com, which, as we all know, is the voice of sympathy and the voice of happy optimism. It's not. It's an alright website, but it mostly comes across as pissed off hipsters. And the Red Labour page has picked this up, and they've said, please take the time to read this extract. You will regret it. I did regret it. I could have done so much more when I woke up this morning. But this is the politics of the Remain campaign. It's not. It's the politics of Vice magazine. Once again, the Remain campaign are dividing people. This referendum is dividing people. We've got a side that says stand over there if you want to leave. You've got a side that says stand over there if you want to remain. And you're an idiot if you pick either side. That's what's dividing people. This vitriol. But let's see. This time they are demonising and persecuting the elderly, dividing the young from the old. This is abhorrent. Yeah, I can agree with that. Many of these elderly people fought a world war. Campaigned for a Labour victory in 1945. Yeah. And created the welfare state. There is no way to thank that generation. Disgraceful, shameful, and disgusting. I'm like, that's pretty tall statement. How do we know these are the same elderly people that fought World War II? And this anger, the main part of the anger, is about how they bought a house for 60 quid during the Thatcher years. This whole post is about inequality and options that don't exist for my generation. I mean, the options that exist for my generation are I minimize this. I wonder if you can see my desktop. No, you can't. Never mind. Okay, the options that exist for my generation right now. If the EU referendum causes the pound to fall, and the pound is already falling, my friends, the pound is going down like most of the videos on Pornhub. But the pound is getting crippled by this. There's no two ways about it. Is this apparent? Can you see this? Yeah, you can. Awesome. Okay. So the pound is currently going down, and if the pound does collapse for whatever reason, that's going to affect a lot of jobs. And if you find yourself unemployed, this graph, a week in the life of a job seeker, is what you can expect to have to do whilst you look for work. You really don't want to end up unemployed because of the financial collapse. I mean, how many people lost their jobs when the banks collapsed? And we're still paying for that financial collapse, as Cameron and Osborne tell us every damn day when we ask for more money to fix our roads, to fix our schools, to fix our hospitals, to help the nurses, to help the junior. Whenever we need money for something, they'll whip out Labour and beat us around the head with the old financial collapse. What the hell do people think will happen if the pound collapses with the EU? And Farage has gone on record saying it doesn't matter, who cares if the pound falls if we leave the EU, because, you know, that'll be short term. But the short term pains of leaving the EU, like those birthing pains as we create a new Britain outside the EU, those are not going to be felt by primarily the elderly who have their pension guaranteed triple locked with lasers and shit. It's gonna be felt by the young people like myself that do the 0-hour jobs, that do all the things no one else wants to do, and then still has the job security of a flea, because our generation is given no respect by the older ones. I've even sat on the train with consultants from London in their 50s who have said, my concern about your generation is when you reach 50, you will not be on the same amount of money that I am. And I'm like, why not? And he's like, because his generation has deliberately pushed the wage bar so low that it's difficult for us to claw that back. And if we leave the EU and there's an economic crunch, they're going to use that as an excuse to squeeze our wages even further. The defining issue of our age is wealth inequality. It's not the EU referendum. And to be fair, I've met plenty of people that don't vote, which is tragic. But those that are grumpy about the EU, they're mostly grumpy about the immigrants coming over here taking our jobs. Except I've done plenty of volunteering in the mental health sector, in schools, in the public community with the elderly, and the immigrants coming over and taking our jobs are, okay, you've got Polish folks, but the Polish folks have either been taxi drivers, so they've taken steps to actually get the qualifications to be a taxi driver, because as we all know, you can't fart without red tape being approving the expulsion of gas, so they've become a taxi driver, and that's their life choice. I was in a mental health hospital, and one of the nurses was Polish, which means she undertook training to become a nurse. It's not like she came over here cap in hand and we instantly go, now you're a nurse in the NHS, boom, well done. No, there is a hard, heavy amount of training that you have to do to become a nurse, a teacher, a doctor. Even learning to drive is hard. You know, anything in life where you've got to actually put your feet down and your head down and get a qualification is hard, and that's what a lot of the immigrants have done, the ones that are working in our vital industries. And so I need to say to my friends that want to leave the EU, if your life is shit, a bit like mine, a bit like why I have to do this poxy a week in the life of the job seeker, there's no point blaming the EU or blaming the migrants. We've got to blame ourselves. I chose to do a degree in international politics. I was warned by people that it doesn't really have a job that's in demand. I know that there's tens of thousands of graduates not working in fields related to their degree, but my generation accept this is a mistake we made, and it's not the fault of the EU. we were sold a lie in school when we weren't fit to make a big economical decision about our life, that get a degree and you'll be better off. And it turns out we're not. And I'm bitter about that, but I'm not bitter against the Polish or the Romanians or the dad that came over here with his 5 kids and was homeless and got a private house in Birmingham, because, you know, that's private rent. I live in social housing. I'm not going to be jealous of someone that's paying through their nose for their rent. And he's got 5 kids. I mean, that's a responsibility in itself. And I know people don't want to raise their kids properly in Britain, because I've been out there and I've seen kids talking down to their parents, talking crap to their mum and dad. Britain would be in a better state if more people actually nurtured a sense of community, not the haves and have-nots, not the, oh, look at them, they're poor but they're living in a house. We don't know shit about those people that are poor. We don't know how they got that house.